In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the best Davinci Resolve plugin that can take hours off of your project. The plugin is called TypeFlow and was created by Rystal. Big shout out to him for letting me try it out, and you guys should go and check out his channel and check out rystal.shop if you want to get yourself the TypeFlow plugin. Quick intermission guys, whilst editing this video, Rystal sent me a code for you guys to use when purchasing anything off of his website. The code is Patty20 and will be on screen for you guys to use right now. Shout out to him for doing this for you guys and enjoy the video. So obviously you're going to drag in the TypeFlow preset, and to actually do that, you're going to want to go onto the effects tab and under toolbox type Rystal, and then it will come up here, and then you'll drag that in, and you realize that it already has an animation pre-made on it for you, which is just a letter by letter text animation. So I'm just going to change what it says here and just customize it to however I like. But to actually change the animation, which is the fun part, you just want to go on here onto animation, and this is where you can change everything about the text. So for example, you know, the first thing on here, I can change whether or not there is an animation in and whether or not there is an animation out. So if I uncheck this, it will get rid of the animation into the text, and then the animation out will still be applied as it is ticked. But then I can obviously turn that off, and that will just keep the text non-animated. So I'll turn both of those back on just so we have an animation. Next, the duration here changes how long this animation lasts for. So obviously, for now, this animation lasts 5 seconds from the in animation to the out animation. But then if you drag up the duration, so about, let's just say 70 or 69, it will change how long it animates in for. And to actually see the animation out, since obviously the duration has been increased, we have to just drag this out, and you'll see it gets much longer, and the animation only just starts at about 12 seconds. Next, the delay, it just changes how long it takes for the animation to start and finish. So if you increase the delay, it will obviously take a much longer amount of time to start the animation, and then it will take a much longer amount of time to finish the animation. So I'm just going to reset both of those just so I can, go through the other things without having to play it for a long amount of time. So next we have the delay between setting, which is obviously the delay between either of these scopes. So if you increase the delay between, it will increase the delay between each letter. And for example, if you have word selected, then it will increase the delay between each word. If I increase it a bit more, then it will be more visible. And what you can also do is you can uncheck link scope, which unlinks the out and in scope. So this means you could change the way the text is animated in. So if we select letter, and then for outer scope, we'll select word, or we'll do line. And then you'll see that the animation in is obviously the letter by letter animation. I've changed the delay between because it'll just take a long time. And then you'll see obviously the out animation is a full line animation. And then you'll see the line out is obviously just a full line animation out. So again, just for purpose of showing you what this plugin can actually do, which is insane, I'm just going to reset everything to how it was. So the next setting that we have here is easing. Easing is obviously how the word or the letters ease. And we can change this from either ease out, which is just a smooth, simple ease. But we can also change it to elastic. Now this adds bounce to the letters and to the words. Now you can change the elastic dampening, so this just changes how much of the bounce the word or letters actually have. So if, I've increased it here, it will kind of limit how much it can bounce, but then if I decrease it, it will make it much more bouncy and much more crazy in a way. And then elastic frequency, if we increase this, it will obviously just change how fast and how many times the elasticity will happen. And then obviously if we decrease this, it will decrease how elastic the word is. So obviously it's not going to have the same crazy effect as before. And then again, I'm just going to change this back to ease out just to show you again. Next, the order. So obviously this is quite straightforward. If you change it from auto to left to right, that'll stay the same. However, if you change it from right to left, then it's going to start the animation from the right side of the text to the left. You can also change it to random, which is pretty cool, as every time you do this, it'll just be random letter by letter. So if I change the seed also, gonna give a different animation each time. And this is quite insane. Like, I've never ever seen something like this on a text plugin before, and it's just crazy what Rystal has done with this. It is insane. So if I just go back on here and put left to right, I can invert the out order. So this means that instead of going left to right out, it'll go right to left out. Next, on the effects for the animations, we have a fade, so obviously that's just a fade in. I'd say it looks much more cleaner and smoother with the fade, but I've seen people use it without. So, you know, it's just kind of your own preference in terms of the fade. And then obviously you can change whether or not you want a fade out. And then you can also select link fade, which just changes if you want to fade out or if you don't. So if I deselect fade out, obviously that's going to get rid of the fade once the animation is going out. I'll change that back to link. Next, we can change the slide. So if I deselect this, you'll see that it doesn't slide up. It just does a letter by letter animation in a straight line. But then, you know, if I select this, it will slide up the text. And you can also change this. So I can do, you know, left, and this will slide the text in from the left, or I can do down, which will slide the text from up to down. And then you can also change the slide distance, which obviously decreases how far the text has to travel before it finishes. You can also select a custom slide direction. So, you know, I can just change the angle, and this will change where the text is coming in from. So, you know, if I do -160, it's going to come from this angle. I'll change the slide in distance just a bit more so you guys can see it more intensely. And there we go. There you can see that, you know, it changed. If I change this, it's going to slide it in from a completely different direction. And it's just insane. The amount of possibilities with this are endless. I'm just going to change this back to up, just to show you guys what else is capable. We can also do a zoom effect. So obviously this zooms in each letter. If we decrease the zoom strength, that obviously decreases the amount of zoom that each letter has, which is really clean, and you know, it can give your text some clean effects. You can also change the zoom pivot X and Y, so this will change the angle of the zoom. So, you know, here it's coming from the bottom left again, but then if I up the pivot X, what it's going to do is going to kind of come more from the center. Comes kind of more from the right-ish, center-ish. And again, the possibilities are endless for this. You can also change the zoom out, so obviously that will then have its own effect. So if I, you know, put zoom strength crazy high, it's going to zoom out very intensely. Now I'm just going to turn this off again. Then you have rotate. So obviously this will just add a rotation onto the text. So, you know, that's quite heavy. So if we decrease the rotation amount, then this will decrease the amount of degrees that the text or letters have to rotate, which can also give some pretty cool effects. You can change the rotate pivot X and the rotate pivot Y, which is going to change the way the rotation happens. And then you can also unlink the rotation, which then give a separate rotation to the out and in, which is just, you know, the same type of principle as the other effects, just obviously with rotation this time. Next we have blur. Now if we check this, you'll see that when you play it, there isn't a blur, but when you have it paused, there is a blur. Now, Rystal has done an amazing thing here. As you know, blur can be quite hard to run, so obviously it's going to take up a lot of resources on your computer, and it will slow down the editing process. So what Rystal has done is, if you go on help here, he has added a fast playback button. So obviously once you're playing the video, it will allow you to run it smoothly, and if you uncheck this, it will play the blur animation throughout. But this will help a lot of people on lower end PCs like myself. Obviously, it will allow you to run your project faster. It won't slow down your editing process, you know, just because there's blur on your text. Under help, you can also add motion blur, and you can change the strength and change the quality of it, which is quite straightforward, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But then if we go back on animation here and scroll down, and the last setting we can apply is flicker. So this obviously will add a flicker to each letter. And you can decrease the flicker amount, which obviously decrease how many times the text flickers. You can also change the flicker speed, so you can make it really fast. You can also obviously decrease this, make the flicker really slow, take quite a long time, which makes it quite unnoticeable. You can also, like the other effects, you can unlink this, and then you can change the flicker out and flicker in. And I forgot to mention as well, you've got all your basic text settings on controls. So obviously you can change the size, you can change the position, change your fonts, change everything, change the tracking, line spacing. And also another amazing feature that Rystal has added is adaptive fonts. So if you have any text that you don't have the font for, it will automatically apply a font for those texts. So I'll pop up an example on screen now. You'll see that some letters have boxes around them, but if you have adaptive font checked, then it will automatically fill out those boxes. This is also where you can change your language direction. So obviously languages in the Middle East, such as Arabic, they read right to left. So obviously you can change that right to left here, and vice versa. And then obviously the color and all the simple text settings are all here. And finally, if you have an audio underneath your text, so obviously I don't right now, but if you did have words that you wanted to sync with your text, what you do is select which animation you have chosen. So for this one, obviously I've chosen letter. And then if you keyframe the word here, so I'll put word 1 here, skip a bit forward, then I keyframe it again and put word 2, and it'll pop up the second word, and obviously it'll give a separate animation for the second word. And then if I go a bit further and put word 3, then it'll give a separate animation for word 3 once that keyframe has been activated, which is amazing to know, as obviously it's going to help you sync your text with your audio without having to, go into Fusion and everything. It is crazy how many endless possibilities there are with one text template instead of having to go through Fusion, doing all the confusing stuff. All you need is one text template. It is insane. And again, big shout out to Rystal for letting me try this out and just show you guys what is possible. And again, this is not sponsored. This is not paid for. This is my honest reaction to this plugin, and it is truly amazing. So guys, go and check out Rystal on his YouTube, and go and check out Rystal.shop if you want to buy yourself TypeFlow, any other of his plugins or presets or anything. Guys, please go and check out his channel and show some love, because this is amazing. Also, if you guys have any other tutorials that you want me to make, put them down in the comments below and let me know. I'll be sure to make them. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.